There she is. You clicked on the thumbnail, so you already know I bought this Manlift. This is a Snorkel TBA-42. I think I'm going to call her Tabitha. I've been watching Craigslist for a year now, waiting for the right deal on one of these things. These things being Manlifts, not particularly this one. I got a good price, but man, she needs a lot of love. Most of it's going to wait for a future date, but there's a couple of things I want to get done straight away, so let's get to work. First order of business is get it starting. Not much action on the key there. So it does run. It actually runs pretty good. The issue is in the starting system here. Luckily, that couldn't be a whole lot simpler. I'm a little ways into the troubleshooting tree off camera because I had to get it started to get it on the truck and then again to get it off the truck when I had it shipped. Both times gave me a little bit of headache, but I got it done, and there are issues with both the starter and the solenoid. So the two main components that need some love are this, which is the starter motor, and this, which is the starter solenoid. We're also going to talk a little bit about this solenoid, which is identical, and this, which is the backup hydraulic pump. The only reason that these are getting involved is because these parts are identical, and both of them are failing, or have failed. I know that, not because I needed to use the backup pump, but because when this one was giving me trouble, I tried swapping them and found that this one was even worse. So the system is extremely simple. All that's going on here is this is a big relay. When you apply 12 volts to these two small terminals, it closes a big contactor in here and connects the big terminals. This top one goes to this wire here, which runs straight to the battery. This bottom one runs to the starter. This small terminal runs to ground, and this little wire here is the ignition switch. So when this gets set to 12 volts, that circuit closes, full power from the battery goes to the starter motor, cranks the engine. Now there are issues with both of these components. We can bypass the solenoid at least just by hot wiring across the big terminals. So if I put a jumper cable right there, tries to crank. That's one of the things that's not happening. Sometimes not even that works, and the starter motor needs to sound smack to get it to do its thing. That's not a good sign. Luckily, I have these. Took a little digging around in the manual to find replacement part numbers, but I found suitable parts for reasonable prices, ordered them, and got them here. So first order of business is to get all three of these things replaced. The starter is an exact replacement. Looks identical, all the castings look the same. No real surprises there. Solenoids look a fair bit different. You can get ones that look just like this, but I decided to buy these because of the reviews. The overall ratings are about the same, but the negative reviews on these ones complain about heating up if used in continuous duty applications because it's rated as a continuous duty solenoid. I need it as a starter. It only runs for a second or two, so that's not a problem for me. The negative reviews on these ones reported contacts welding closed, which you don't want with any contactor, but you really don't want with a starter because then it doesn't stop starting. That can do some bad things. The downside is that the mounting plate is in a slightly different place, so I'm going to have to drill some holes. I can live with that. Oh, remind me if I forget. White is the starter, green is the hydraulic pump. you can see these won't line up. Would I rather have it this way or that way? Don't need to do much in either of those areas. I think I'm gonna do that. Plenty of slack for everything to reach. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. And then I'm gonna drill a dedicated grounding spot right there. That's the plan. Man, knew a ballpoint wrote so well on wet steel. All calipers can be scribing calipers if you just believe. Now, the chrome's a little showy for a 90s snorkel lift, but if they work, I'm happy. Nice. So these new solenoids include backup nuts on the posts, which is not unusual. The old ones had them too. The difference is these are spaced out. You see that? I don't know if that's a washer or just a shoulder. But most of the time they don't do that. It's just a nut. And nuts tend to be thinner than wrenches. So while you can get a wrench on this, as soon as you put a terminal on there and another nut, you can't. The wrench doesn't fit. And so you end up tightening the top nut just against however this is mounted inside the plastic bit. You can't back it up unless you grind a skinny wrench. This one fits a standard wrench. Somebody was thinking. All right, these solenoids are mounted and grounded. This is the wire straight from the battery. That sounds like it's working. So does that. Good deal. I don't think that alone's going to make a difference, but let's try it for funsies. No huge surprise there. Should I act surprised when I see this? Make good YouTube? I've had this off before. And that's not what it's supposed to look like. So this starter motor engages with the flywheel through this gear. And the way it's supposed to work is that there's a spring up here which pushes this back. So that normally when this is in the housing, this gear is over here and the gear teeth on the flywheel are over here and they're disengaged. And then when this spins, that helix shoves this out, engages with the gear, starts the motor, and then when this stops spinning, it sucks back in. You can see the innards of one of these things in a previous video I did where I cut a cheap one up and made a one-way adapter for my drill so I could start chainsaws with it. But anyway, as you can see on this one, it is not retracted, and this broken, twisted thing here is a piece of the spring that's supposed to retract it. Now I can push it back, but that is mangled, and you can see that's pretty mangled, which is why it's sticking forward. So this was not disengaging. Here's the new one, and it's got a plastic cover on it for shipping, I assume. But I'm supposed to take that off? Maybe not? Is there room for that? Maybe that lives on there. I thought that was just a shipping protector. And this one had one and it exploded. Sure, let's go with that. Alright, I want to see if this thing's going to work, so I'm going to... What do we have here? This is always hot. So that's 12 volts. So if I jumper from that to that, that should close the contact here and make it try and start. Nice. So that means last problem is the key. Let's jump to the other side. Let's see what we can see here. Oh, that's on a second hinge. Cool. Oh, that is crusty. Cool, serviceable. You can't see any of that, can you? All right, let's do better with the camera. All right. So this is the key switch. Got 3 wires. That big orange one comes from the E-stop. And this white one goes to emergency power. Really? Does that make sense? So I'm guessing it's this. Those are supposed to get connected on start. Maybe? What the heck gets connected on key on? Nothing on that lug. I mean, I shouldn't really overthink it. I should just clean those 3 contacts and see if it gets better. Okay, that's the plan. All right, did some tinkering with the start switch, cleaned some contacts. Not terribly exciting, YouTube. But I think I got it. Let's give this a go. All right, that made all the difference in the world. Even when the stuff was working before, it barely had enough oomph to get this thing to lug over. Really needed to feather the throttle and use starting fluid and all the tricks in the book to try and get it to start. This is so much stronger. I don't know if the contactors are just making that much better of a connection. I suspect the actual starter itself is much, much stronger. I think the old one was pretty toast. So that is a huge improvement. This thing starts fantastic now. There is one more thing I want to get after, but it is getting cold and dark, and so I'm going to hold off a little bit. I'll bring you back when the conditions are a little more optimal, and we'll go over that. For now, though, I'm taking the win. Really happy with how that starts, and that's a big one off the to-do list. All right, it's a new day. I got more light at least. Might be a little warmer. The last thing to fix is this. This is the drive stick. There's a lot of little quirks with the electrical on this thing. I think every connection just needs to be taken apart, cleaned, and put back together. I think a lot of stuff's going to start working again. But I did go through, and all the hydraulic functions work. All of these switches do the thing they're supposed to do, with the exception of the forward-reverse drive lever. We were able to get it on and off the truck, manually actuating the valve, but that was no fun. So I'm going to trace these wires through the system, clean the contacts, see if we can get this working. And you can see there's some real ugly in here. So let's see here. The signal wires are A and B, which looks like orange and blue here. Oh no, orange and purple, that's R. All right, supposedly those land down here. There's 17 and 18, and it starts with 11. 15, 16, 17, and 18 are orange and purple. Cool. I think that's about it for in there. Let's go look at the other end. So the back one is the valve in question. These little stems here can be pushed on with a screwdriver to cause the machine to drive. Okay, so we got red, there's orange, there's purple, there's the reds. These don't look too bad either. Alright, before we get too crazy troubleshooting, let's go see if that did anything. Okay, progress. I got forward but not reverse. Reverse. All right, we took the bad connection. All right. Machine now starts, which is a big improvement, and it drives under its own power without having somebody clinging to the side of the machine, poking it with a screwdriver. So that was the short list. Got a whole bunch of other stuff I want to do, but we have reached the minimum bar, which means that can wait for better weather and I can get on to other things.